Hello guys, I hope you all are doing well. Today's topic is interesting, so let's start with it. We start with the what of the Global Slavery Index. So, when we see what is Global Slavery Index, we'll find that it is a global study of modern slavery published by the Minderoo Foundation's Walkfree initiative. 4 editions have been published in 2013, 14, 16 and 18, and we'll analyze the 2018 report for now, and we'll wait for the 2020 report if there is any, and if we have it, we'll update our answers, we'll update the index accordingly. So, 2018 edition builds on the global estimates of the modern slavery, which estimated that 40.3 million people were in some form of slavery on any given day in 2016. Then, the index provides ranking across 3 dimensions. So, what are these 3 dimensions? See, size of the problem, that is the estimate prevalence in terms of percentage of the population that is there in any country. Then government response, how is government responding to the problem, how is government keeping itself efficient and tackling with the problem. And then we have vulnerability, that is factors that explain or predict prevalence. So let's look into what is Global Slavery Index all about. If we know about why is this Global Slavery Index required, you will find that in total of G20 countries that we have, this index says that they need to take action to stop sourcing goods and services at risk of being produced by forced labor. In this issue, there are 12 countries who are not taking any action towards this problem, and India is one amongst them. Then, slavery in supply chains is one issue, and government response on imports, public procurement, business supply chains, identifying risk is critical. So, everybody must do more. This is what the slavery index talks about, and we look into what all are the facts and the figures taken out from this index and where this India stand. See, in the index, when they say government response rating to modern slavery, that is there. How is the government responding? The middle indicator that was there in Global Slavery Index, you'll find that India ranks in the B category, the B grade. See, according to that map, India ranks under the B position, which has 40 to 49.9 rating, and here we see India. Along with India, we also see Bangladesh here, we also see South Africa, Turkey, we have Iceland here, and we have Egypt here. Netherlands tops it. In the BBB it's United States, UK is there, Italy, France. You'll see most of the European countries are here, and then we also have Slovenia, Lithuania. All of these we are talking because when we were looking at the inclusive index, we saw these holding an important position, and here also they are not in bad category, they are just above India only. However, if you see the CCC range, we have China here, and then we also have Singapore here, the Asian countries that you talk of, the Mongolia, the Uzbekistan, and if you see Korea, if you see China again here, if you see we also have Russia here, we have Hong Kong here, we all have it in CC range. And then in C range, you will see Pakistan, our first most neighboring country. However, in this CCC range, we also have Sri Lanka here, we have Nepal here, and Taiwan. China is in the CCC range, and the main China is in the CC range. And accordingly, the D range, which is below marking, which is in the negative, is Libya. We have Korea, that is North Korea. The South Korea was here in the CC range, and then Central African Republic, Eritrea, Iran, and Equatorial Guinea is all in the below rank, that is the D rank. Then what are the indicators, what are the dimensions that are used in measuring this index? See, governance issues that you have, we have lack of basic needs, we have inequality, we have disenfranchised groups, we have effects of conflict, and then the overall weightage average, of which Asia and the Pacific is ranking here. In the Asia and Pacific, if you see, forced labor percentage is 66% that they are showing, forced marriage percentage is 34% they are showing, and then estimate number of people in modern slavery, the regional proportion of global estimate, and then the average vulnerability score is 46 out of 100, where India is here. And the average government response score is CCC, whereas just for India it was B here. And if you see according to the population, you will find that India is having 6.1 of the scale victims per 1,000 population, and the estimate absolute number of victims is here, and then the total population of India is here. And like I said, when the dimensions that are used are governance issues, lack of basic needs, inequality, disenfranchised group, effects of conflict, and then the overall weightage, which we saw for the Asia and the Pacific among other world has. But apart from that, in Asia, India is at this position with 46.2, 29.8. All of these are things that you can add. See, when you're talking about inequality, when there's a question on inequality and you want to add some facts and figures, you can say according to Global Slavery Index 2018, India has a 32.4% of this inequality which is prevalent. So we can also say that, see, Pakistan has more of it, Afghanistan has more of it, and China, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Nepal, Mongolia has all less of it. So this is how the scale goes, and India in a worse state than this, but in a better state than all of these. And if you see the India's comparison in the 2016 rating and the 2018 rating in word movements in government response that India has been having, this year in 2018 ranking, India is in B position, but it hasn't improved, and in 2016 also it was in B position. However, Sri Lanka is now in CCC, whereas in 2016 it was equal to India, whereas Indonesia is now in a BB, but initially it was in B. So Indonesia has improved, Sri Lanka has deproved, however India remains equal. So this is how it's going. Then Singapore has improved, China has deproved, then Hong Kong, China has improved, Brunei has improved, and then Pakistan has deproved. So all of these are rankings that can be helpful when we want to compare with what we were and what we are. Now, there's one more section which I felt that could be important for our answers. See, when we see what the Global Slavery Index had kept out, it said that understanding the risk imported by the G20 countries, there are two important factors to understand the risk. One is, see, first we need to identify that which globally traded products are likely to be at risk of being produced using modern slavery. And then second is to match them with their trade value. So we'll see that India, in the list of products at risk of forced labor by source countries, under BRICS, India has been facing the risk. Under the carpets, India again has been facing the risk, and under rice, India again has been facing the risk. And in rice, it is looking at this risk with Myanmar, and carpets it's with Pakistan, and in BRICS it's with Nepal, Pakistan and Afghanistan. India is also in garments, apparel and clothing accessories, that is along with Argentina, Brazil, China, Malaysia, Thailand and Vietnam. See, now we saw the issue, but what are the G20 governments doing? See, Global Slavery Index assesses the governments on a range of indicators of good practices, including what they are doing to stop this sourcing of goods or services. And in this results, we'll see that Brazil has been doing this, the China government has been doing this, France, Germany, Italy, UK, US, everybody has been doing something or the other. But in the zero position stays India also. And when we see the G20 government responses concerning recruitment fees, you'll see that yes, India is here in a position where the fees capped at certain amounts or according to the certain conditions are done. However, China and Indonesia, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Turkey, they do not have any laws implemented. But US and Canada has no federal legislation, but individual state laws are there. However, in Brazil, Italy, South Africa and UK, laws are implemented to prevent fees charged to employees. So India is in a worse state than them, but in a better state than these. Also, when you see the G20 government responses on equal labor laws, this is important. Why? Because when you are going through the questions that deals with labor migration or anything like that, yes, we can use this as an key to an answer where we see there are countries where labor laws cover all workers. However, there are countries where labor laws exclude workers in certain sectors, of which in India the domestic workers are excluded. So here we can see that laws are there, but not for domestic workers that much. Then there are the risk factors for modern slavery in the fishing industry. See, when we did that Pradhan Mantri Sampada Yojana that we had, that was also into blue revolution, into fishing, and this can also be an help to an answer. So these are the points that, see, to understand risk factors, there are datas in the on fishing and training management. So, fishing outside of the vessel's national waters where activities may be subject to fewer regulators. These are all the risk factors that are there in major fish producing countries. And dependence on distant water fishing potentially increases the vulnerability of the crew to exploitation. And then high levels of vessels and fuel subsidies provided. So what is this doing? This is indicating a lack of competitiveness in a country's fishing industry. Then low per capita GDP of the fishing country is also a risk. Low average value of a fisheries catch per fisher is also a risk. Large scale unreported fishing by a country's fishing fleets, this is also a risk. Then we have 6 characteristics, 2 major sets of drivers, national fisheries policies, and the first 3 variables are here, and then wealth and institutional capacity. And when you see the top 20 fishing countries categorized according to the risk of modern slavery in the fishing industry, you'll find India is at a medium risk, whereas Norway, US, Iceland, Denmark is at a better position than India, and China, Japan, Russia, Spain, South Korea, Taiwan, China, and then Thailand is at a worse state than India. See, we saw our why, we got our when, that is 2018. Now, how should governments and businesses be implementing or improving their conditions? See, the G20 governments that are there, public procurement saying should require publicly funded entities to report on steps and taken to eliminate modern slavery, and government should require government contractors to certify that they take specific preventive measures. Then business supply chain should enact legislation that requires large businesses to report on steps. Then government should manage a free and publicly accessible repository to file all modern slavery statements. Then they should ensure that any legislative reform aligns with legal and regulatory efforts. So efforts should be there. Free and publicly accessible repository should be there. Then large businesses to report on steps taken to eliminate modern slavery. This is like a CSR that you can talk of. And then ethical recruitment is ensuring that labor law covers national and migrant workers in all sectors, enacting legislations and then laws, then regulating third party labor, and then identifying and promoting safe migration corridors. These are all the parts of government that they should be doing. Then if we see the G20 business side, see transparency in supply chains. Business should report annually on steps taken to address risk and eradicate modern slavery, which you can link with this answer. Then businesses should proactively and regularly conduct due diligence for modern slavery risks, so that they encourage their suppliers to make similar efforts, and thus they can ensure transparency in supply chains. Ethical recruitment, again, never withholding workers' identity documents, and then never charging recruitment fees, that we saw that yes, India stands somewhere in the middle. Then businesses should provide jobs, internships, and then businesses should engage with governments and stakeholders, again a collaboration, and then businesses should share information and good practices with regard to ensuring their supply chains. This is how they can work towards the betterment. See, when we were looking at the import of the sources that the different countries are having, and India is getting affected in what all places. So see, importing countries right now India. So India in the products at risk of modern slavery is in electronics, sugarcane, gold, garments and diamonds, of which major of the electronic portions comes from China, and thus modern slavery is seen there. And then sugarcane, gold, garments and diamonds are also a part of it. Then this report also talks about human trafficking, what is it defined, and how can we talk about what is human trafficking. So we can know from here the basic definition of human trafficking. They have also described the forced labor in the according to the ILO Convention on Forced Labor 1930 as all work or service which is exacted from any person under the menace of any penalty, and for which the said person is not offered himself voluntarily. So this point is important. This is forced labor. Then slavery and slavery-like practices, again as defined in the 1926 Slavery Convention. What is slavery-like practices? And then when they have debt bondage, let's know what is debt bondage. It is a status or condition where one person has pledged their labor or service in circumstances where the fair value of that labor or service is not reasonably applied to reducing the debt or length of the debt, or the length and nature of the service is not limited or defined. This is debt bondage, again as kept in this Global Slavery Index 2018. This is it with today's video. Let's meet soon. Thanks for watching.